All right. So, first thing I thought when I saw the title to this news clip was, um, Mayor Lightfoot's been on my radar. Her and a couple other mayors and governors have came to my attention ever since the pandemic started. And Mayor Lightfoot is one of those liberal mayors that black people are looking for answers that ain't gonna have them, ain't never gonna have them, and it's really just gonna do a lot of damage while she's there. Not saying that a white mayor would do any better, but the fact that she has to trust, she didn't have it anymore. She did have the trust of the majority population of the city of Chicago at one point, put her in position to make very damaging statements and policies. So I'm just gonna play this news clip and talk when I see fit.
As America continues to confront racial inequity this week, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot declared racism a public health crisis and pledged nearly $10 million in COVID-19 federal relief money to fight it. According to a new study by the Chicago Department of Public Health, black residents in the Windy City have...
Okay, this is because you niggas kill each other. That's why. There's a life expectancy gap between blacks and non-blacks in Chicago. No shit. When you live a gang lifestyle, that's what happens. You bring negativity to any and everyone around you, especially to yourself, and it's usually not a good outcome at all, and that's prevalent in Chicago. Now, I'm not going to say some of these conditions were not put forth by the whites, but at the end of the day, you have the obligation to make the best decision for you and your family. And for a good couple of decades, that has not been the case with black people at all. As a whole, have not been making the best decisions for you and your family as a whole.
A life expectancy 9 years shorter than non-black Chicagoans. Joining me now is the mayor of Chicago herself, Lori Lightfoot. Mayor Lightfoot, thank you very much for coming to the Sunday Show.
My pleasure and happy.
This bitch looks tired. That is the definition of a tired bitch. Right there. Look at her.
Happy Father's Day to everyone.
Thank you very much. So, Mayor Lightfoot, you're calling systemic racism a public health crisis is no surprise to me, because in the conversations we've had over these years, you have said that flat out. But
race is a problem. It's a problem. It's a big problem. But it's not a problem above niggas making good decisions for themselves. Making the best decision for themselves and their life and their family. When you choose to get sucked up into something that's not best for you, that's on you and you only. And grown men understand that. Grown men that are usually raised by another good men understand that and don't need to make mistakes through half of their life before they understand that their personal decisions put them where they are.
This declaration makes it official. Talk about why you feel so strongly that this declaration be made.
Well, Jonathan, I think one of the big narratives coming out of the pandemic is that the cost and consequences of inequities and injustice simply can no longer be ignored. You're right. We've known that racism is a public health crisis, but I think naming it and saying it gives us the opportunity to address it once and for all. The consequences of this, the life expectancy gaps, the absence of access to high quality health care on the part of so many of our residents.
Now, if you want to factor in racism of black people against their own people, maybe you can bring that case up as legit, because I think the biggest threat to black people is usually other black people. The only way you treat your own kind like this is if you have no respect for your own kind, which means you have no respect for yourself if you're of the same skin color. These niggas don't respect themselves, and they don't respect other people around them. They don't respect other black men. You know, and that can be attributed to a lot of things. But at the end of the day, if you're a grown ass man or a grown woman, it's up to you to make decisions that's best for you and your family. And if you make hasty decisions that are fueled by petty nonsense and feelings, you are doomed. And petty nonsense really has a lot to do with majority of the killings that go around in the black community, and that's a goddamn fact.
The consequences of gun violence, if you look at the root causes, you can trace a lot of that to racism, systemic poverty, all those other consequences.
You can also trace it to men being raised by women year after year after year with no strong father figure. And in turn, you have grown men making very emotional decisions just like the women that raised them. Yo, that's on the black man too. That's on black men. You gotta fix that. You gotta be in your kid's life.
So naming it and making it an official declaration of the city gives us the opportunity to have the conversation on the table and start addressing the root causes.
We have a bunch of statistics that we can show for the country.
The root cause is your personal decisions. You're a grown up. Race shouldn't stop you from doing anything. And if race does stop you from doing anything, you're what we call a brittle spirit. And if it wasn't race, it'll be something else to break you.
Control room. Let's just start at the first one. Opioid deaths, opioid-related overdose death among blacks in Chicago is more than 3 times the rate among non-blacks. We go to HIV. Blacks account for half of the people living with HIV. And now let's go to gun violence. 2020 versus 2021. As you see there, I'm sorry.
Watch this bitch blame it on somebody else.
All right, we don't have it, but 5% homicide, 17% shootings. But the key thing here in the report that you put out, homicide is the number 5 cause of death, leading cause of death among all blacks in Chicago, and number 3 for black males. Gun violence in Chicago has been something we have been talking about and fretting about for years now. Why is it so hard to get a handle on the gun problem in Chicago?
Well, I think there's a number of reasons. Excuse me. First and foremost, we're surrounded by states that have extraordinarily lax gun laws. So we've been calling on the federal government to do what...
Let me just say this about gun laws. If you have ever smoked weed before it was legally, let's say if you're a weed smoker and weed just became legal mostly everywhere, in the last couple years. But if you're smoking weed 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it wouldn't matter to you that weed was illegal because you're still going to find a way to smoke weed. You understand? So the same thing goes with criminals and guns. Just because you ban guns for law-abiding people doesn't put a dent in criminals being able to get guns at all. Just like weed laws didn't put a dent in people getting high. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work.
It's necessary to have multi-jurisdictional gun trafficking task forces, because the truth is our police department takes more guns off the street than LA or New York combined year after year after year. We can't stop the flow of illegal guns into our city without the federal government support.
No.
But going back to the root causes,
Fuck no.
too many of our young men believe that their destiny is preordained, that they have no future, that they have no hope. So what we've been working on for the last 2 years, and we'll continue this work post-pandemic, is building that village of support among young Black and brown males to let them know that their future is limitless if they take advantage of the opportunities in front of them. And we've got to continue to create
That's true.
those opportunities. But where you see this violence raging in certain neighborhoods, it's where there is systemic racism, poverty, and a lack of hope and desperation. That's
Systemic racism is everywhere. It shouldn't. It's the conditions of where you live. We live in America. The ruling class in America happens to be majority white. And that's just how it is. You know what I mean? So, acknowledge that. And move it. And move within the parameters of what you have to do. Because nothing should stop you. At all. At all. There's an opportunity for any nigga that wants to get shit done.
really at the root cause of a lot of this violence. Too many of our young men do not believe that the future lies in education and career. They think it's jail, early death, or minding somebody else's corner spot. We've got to disrupt those systems and replace them with positive, productive activities for our young men.
And this can only be happened when you make changes within the home. There's this dude named Chronicles of Judah. He has a pretty good videos on this fact. He drives home that the black people as a whole, have to create a culture, and a healthy one at that, in order to get past this problem. And that's a fact. There's no amount of laws, there's no amount of rallies, there's no amount of protests that are going to change a damn thing unless you change the culture of the home and teach your children on how to conduct yourself. Figgity facts.
Mayor Lightfoot, I hear what you're saying, and it all makes sense, and it is true, and it is a long-term project that you're talking about. But what do you say to folks in Chicago for whom homicides and gun violence
instill a culture in your children where you know that when they leave your house, they're not going to make dumbass decisions and not get entwined in gang culture or in a fucking anti-successful culture.
Violence is an immediate thing. What do you say to Chicagoans who are looking for you and your administration to do more?
We are doing more. We have been very focused on the 15 areas of our city that drive over 30% of the violence. We are present in those communities, both with law enforcement, of course, but also with using our soft power, our libraries, our parks, our schools, our after-school programs, our community organizations, really coming together and focusing, using data to be literally on a block-by-block basis, and we're starting to see some traction. Again, I don't want to take a victory lap because we're far from where we are, but we're seeing a downtrend in June over June from last year. We're seeing a downturn, certainly in May, homicides and shootings in some of those areas in the city that are the most plagued by gun violence. But to be clear, the violence that we're seeing in Chicago, the uptick, same in New York and Los Angeles and other places across the country, we are all suffering, and we've all got to have a whole of government, whole of community approach. Otherwise, we're not going to make measurable difference. But again, yes, we have to deal with the immediate for sure, but we will never get beyond this if we don't plant the seeds now for the long-term problems, and that's what we have to do. We have to do both, the immediate and be present and make sure that we're holding those accountable who are driving the violence, but we've got to get at the root causes so that we can turn the page from this violence because our young people are moving in a different direction.
Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot. Mayor Lightfoot, thank you very much for coming to the Sunday Show.
All right, well, that's it. gonna come out with more videos on Lori Lightfoot and some more of these mayors of these large inner cities, the more popular ones: DC, Baltimore, Chicago, LA, New York City. Because all these people seem to Minnesota, Dallas, Seattle, Milwaukee. A lot of these mayors of these larger inner cities are in a unique position, more than other government officials that I've seen lately. And I want to get into them. I think Lori Lightfoot is Democrat. I think she's also gay and married to a German white woman. Not saying it's anything. I'm just telling you what I saw on Wikipedia. That's it. It's more to come. That's it.